Hi everybody. This is a short video that will cover all the material from the September 21st parent-student meeting that dealt with a potential Italy tour for the Princeton High School Music Department in 2019. We had a little bit of a welcome and introductions. My name is Mark Potvin. I'm the high school choir director. I'll be leading you through this presentation. The other names that you see there are folks that were in attendance at the meeting and representing both the music department as well as administration. Any of this tour information, if you have questions, can be directed to my attention, mark.potvin@isd477.org, or to Principal Barb Muckenhern. Her name is listed with the same tagline at isd477.org, or to Jim Baxter, our high school band director. So our goals for this presentation and in the subsequent webcast here are to make sure that we understand the existing music touring philosophy, why we do what we do in the Princeton High School Music Department with regards to travel, that we understand the scheduling of music tours since 2004. That was the last time that the way that we do things has changed, and we're looking at a potential change. That we understand what those proposed changes are to the music touring schedule, and that we understand the costs and inclusions of a proposed Italy tour, as well as determine your interest and that of our students in changing our past practices. The music touring philosophy is very simple. Our primary concern with travel opportunities at the high school for music students is that we give a major travel opportunity to every student, whether they're in band or in choir or in both, an opportunity for them to travel in grades 10 through 12. A student right now that's in band and choir has two opportunities to do that, one with band and one with choir. Other students that are in only band or choir have one opportunity to travel at some point over the 4 years that they are in high school music in Princeton. Our second philosophical objective is to make sure that we expand student horizons and deepen their understanding of the world and their place in it. We like to say that nothing allows you to understand who you are, grow into a more fully realized version of yourself, and to understand your place in the world than watching the sun rise and set from somewhere else other than Princeton. So we provide those opportunities so kids can see a little bit more than maybe what they already know. We also try to expose students to high-level musical performance in both their own performances and also in showing them some performances of high-caliber musicianship from large-scale national organizations, whether that's the Grand Ole Opry or Broadway musical or a major Philharmonic orchestra, or their own performances in master classes and performing on public stages like Carnegie Hall, or the stages at Disney Studios and those types of things. So high caliber music performance. Those are our things that we focus on most voraciously. And the thing that I want to point out is that these are the things we're not willing to compromise on. As a department, as a school district, these are the things that if any changes to the philosophy cause some sort of rift between students and meeting the needs of these philosophical goals, then we are willing to and want to reevaluate that, because these things are our principal tenets. The current touring schedule that we've been using since 2004 has seen the band tour on year one of a 3-year cycle, and the band tours have been domestic. This has been our past practice for about the last 20 or 30 years of domestic travel, large-scale domestic travel. But this 3-year rotation is just since 2004. So the band tours domestically, they've toured to Los Angeles, to Orlando, to Atlanta, Savannah, and Nashville just last year. The choir tours on the subsequent year. This year is a tour year for the choir. And we travel typically to New York. We have traveled to Seattle, to Boston, to Orlando, some other locations. And then there's an off year. That one is scheduled currently for 2016-2017. Currently, there is a band tour slated for the spring of 2018 that will be for all students in grades 10, 11, and 12 during the 2017-18 school year. And then there's a choir tour scheduled for the spring of 2019 for all students that are in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in the 2018-19 school year. The proposed changes mean that the philosophy would remain unchanged, so that would be static. The changes would include that all music students, instead of touring separately through band or through choir, would instead travel as one unit, an entire music department. What that means is that instead of having band year, choir year, off year, we would instead have music department travel year, off year, off year. It would be 2 off years in the middle. We would concentrate all of our fundraising efforts towards a single event. So rather than having the band fundraise hard, the choir fundraise hard, and then having a year where kids aren't quite sure what they're raising money for, we would instead focus all of our fundraising energies from the time kids enter the program in 6th grade all the way through to the time that they graduate, or the time that they tour, rather, on one event. That event being a large-scale international tour. And that's probably the other big change that everybody is focused on and thinking about, is we would be making a fundamental shift from domestic travel to international travel. So the question that comes up for folks is, what does this mean? What's it going to look like? What kinds of inclusions are there going to be? How is this going to run? When's it going to run? And of course, what costs are associated? So let's talk about what the tour looks like first. The tour will be approximately 12 days. Our goal would be to have it scheduled around the school year, working with the school board 3 years in advance to establish some sort of district calendar that accommodates this trip so that the students would miss as few school days as possible. Currently, our students' spring break usually aligns to whatever music tour we're offering. On the years when there's not a spring break, students often miss 4 days of school. So whatever plan we put into place, we wouldn't want to see students missing any more school than what they currently miss for this kind of tour. Our hope is that there would be a spring break scheduled, and maybe we would have students missing only 2 days of instruction. We're looking at traveling from Minneapolis, flying into Rome, traveling to Sorrento, which is south of Rome, Pompeii, also south of Rome, rebounding into the city of Rome itself, as well as Vatican City, the home of the Roman Catholic Church, and all of the history that goes along with that. Traveling north into Siena and Lucca and other areas of Tuscany, entering the city of Florence and visiting some sites there, as well as Pisa, and then to Milan and flying home from Milan. There is some discussion about whether we would include Venice in the trip. That would probably be as a replacement for Milan. Quite frankly, we're more interested in traveling to Milan simply because Venice, with the number of students that we're talking about, and as well as its geographic removal from the rest of the tour, would make that a little bit more of a challenge for us. That may not be worth our time, energy, and finances. Included in the tour will be airfare and coach bus transportation, so round-trip airfare on our way over, coach bus transportation when we get there, lodging, all lodging is included in the cost of the trip, admission to museums and sites and all of that material, the educational component once we're on the ground would be included in the cost, as well as 10 breakfasts and 10 dinners. The meals not included would be the lunches each and every day, as well as all meals on the plane ride out and the plane ride returning. We would have multiple site-seeing opportunities: the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, the Pompeii excavation site, a city unto itself that was completely covered in ash in 79 AD. We'd visit the Vatican museums, including Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel fresco, the tour of St. Peter's Basilica, visit to the Pantheon, the Roman catacombs just outside the city of Rome. We'd visit the Leaning Tower of Pisa, the Uffizi and Accademia galleries in Florence, which includes being able to see Michelangelo's David, the 20-foot statue that is so very famous. When we travel to the south, we would visit the lemon groves that the Amalfi Coast is famous for, as well as a stop at the Mediterranean Sea. We would also visit in Tuscany some olive groves, and there is a wonderful event scheduled if this tour moves forward that would be production and tasting of olive oils, so discussing and seeing how olive oil is made, as well as a group dinner that would highlight the different tastes of those oils. And then we would finish up with Milanese or Venetian musical sites and history. We'd have performance opportunities. Remember, that's one of our principal tenets, is making sure that all of our performance opportunities are high quality. We'd have 3 advertised public performances that the band and the choir would share. There would be one performance opportunity that would be specific to the band, and then that would be balanced with a choral performance at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. And then there would also be one performance that we would attend, some sort of concert or performance. The wonderful thing about being in Rome is that oftentimes sites of ancient ruins are turned into impromptu performance sites by public and private orchestras and choruses. The educational components are many for this particular event. Leading up to the tour, we would try to do some educational nights for families and students as well, where we would discuss Italian language, culture, history. We would talk through the mathematical components of this, exchange rates, how to fundraise, all of those kinds of things. We would talk through art history and architectural history and world history as it pertains to Italy and to Rome in particular. We would also talk through travel basics, how to apply for a passport, how to pack, what to pack, those kinds of things. In addition to that, we would have guided tours while we're on the ground, and the concert repertoire that we would perform would reflect Italian influences. So what this comes down to then is, I'm sure, a cost issue. Before I turn the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about what our current costs are. When we travel domestically with the choirs and the bands, we look at a cost of between about $1,000 and $1,400. Now that's a domestic tour that is entirely coach bus travel, that is 7 days, and one night is spent on a bus overnight on the way out, and one night is spent on a bus overnight on the way back. 4 nights in a hotel, and very few meals are included. So when we're talking about that domestic trip, know that that's kind of the financial paradigm we've been working with, $1,000 to $1,400 with that type of inclusions. What you're going to see is a significant step up financially, but I've also tried to provide a breakdown on how it might look in real life. So once you look at the first line of the next slide, quickly move on to the second line, which delineates a little more clearly what the practical implications are of this over a 3-year plan. So we're looking at an approximate tour cost of between $3,500 and $3,900 for this tour. We would be fundraising over the course of 3 years, saving money and raising money through the choirs and bands. We're talking about $100 a month or $25 a week over the next 3 years, which I think is a very feasible goal for folks. And this includes no fundraiser reductions. So things like Madrigal Dinner, which brings in $10,000 every other year, summer productions, we just did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, things like our band coupon books and other fundraisers, none of that is included in the reductions in this estimate. And we're moving towards fundraiser models that are 100% profit for students, instead of 30% profit margins like you would find with selling cookie dough or soup or that sort of thing. We'll still have some of those kinds of fundraisers, but we're moving towards things where all of the money is directed right towards student accounts. There are some additional expenses, passports, meals, keepsakes, and that sort of thing. Things to keep in mind, we haven't changed anything yet. Right now, we've got a tour plan for 18, we've got a tour plan for 19. We want to do what's best for the largest number of students, which means if we have participation numbers, projected participation, that would be lower for an international trip, we're not necessarily interested in doing that. What we want to do is provide the most travel opportunity to the most kids, the best travel opportunity to the most kids. And so if that means continuing with the domestic thing, if that's what's best for students, if that's where we have the highest number of participants, then that's what we want to continue with. A proposal, even if everyone says we want to do this Italy tour, it needs to be approved by the school board. That is their prerogative, and that's what we've hired or elected them to do. That school board is looking out for the best interest of kids. Some parents may be concerned about what do we do for seniors in the graduating class of 2018 that are in band, because they will be left out of this particular model. Know that a stopgap tour will be proposed for the band class of 2018 if Italy is a go. There will be a travel opportunity proposed for those kids. We want to make sure that they are not left out of the picture. And then as far as parents going along with, there's a possibility of a parallel companion tour. But typically district staff, administration, and medical personnel go as our chaperones on a tour like this. And our ratio will be kept to about 1 chaperone for every 8 students. So what we need from you is something very, very succinct. We need you to ask questions if you have them. Shoot me an email, mark.potvin@isd477.org. We need you to fill out the survey that's listed right under this video link. It's also listed there on the slide for you to take a look at. Please fill out that survey no later than October 2nd, please. So get that taken care of, and then vacate the pack. You're sitting at home probably drinking a Diet Coke and having a nice time. So I would instead just invite you to have a lovely evening. Thanks so much for your time. Email if you've got questions, and make sure that survey gets filled out. Thanks so much.